This is the concierge, sir.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Concierge Confidential. I'm your host, Brian Ortega. Thank you so much for listening another week, and thank you for all the feedback. So we did get a message on the gram, which honestly, guys, if you send me a message on Instagram and I don't have a episode planned that week, most likely turning your message into an episode. So very high probability that's going to happen. So I did get a message on Concierge Confidential _LV on Instagram. And the question was, one, you wanted me to do more episodes, which would love to, but very busy with my actual job. But I used to do 2 episodes a lot more frequent, but it's become a little bit harder to do that just because a little bit more responsibility of where I do my other job. But I still love to come on here and talk to you guys about, Vegas, obviously. But anyways, the question was what is a safe place to live, specifically around the Strip? But then it made me think about a little bit broader of what's it like to live in Las Vegas in general, and also what are the good areas to live in, the areas that are a little bit more, sketchy, if you will, and overall, just what it's like living in the city of Las Vegas. So it sounds very broad, but I'm going to keep it to sort of pointing out the areas that people like to live in, where there are to buy houses, and also, some of the things that us Las Vegans sort of become accustomed to that you may not have in the city that you're in, and some things you have to get used to if you move here. Because if you're somebody who really likes to gamble, and you don't have the funds to gamble, a lot, this could be a problem city for you, because this city, as you know, is known as Sin City, and it's not a lie. There are really a lot of things that Vegas has that can be very, very dangerous for you, especially if you're a compulsive person, because you might want to do something at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and guess what? We have something that's open at that time that you want to do. So we're going to be jumping into that and sort of going over some of the stuff that our listener Rick asked about in this very long message, but very much appreciated. So we'll dive into that coming up next on Concierge Confidential. Okay, everybody, so let's go ahead and dive into it. So I'm going to really break up Las Vegas into like 5 different areas. Really there's 4, but 5 different areas. So you have Green Valley Ranch, or Henderson as it's known, and that's really where a lot of families live. A lot of like established Vegas people have lived in Henderson for a very, very long time, and there are kind of different parts of Henderson just because it's really connected at this point. But you really have like kind of where I live, which is sort of South Las Vegas, really, like I would say like West Henderson, because I'm almost to Las Vegas Boulevard. But then you have like other parts of Henderson, which are like the 515, which is essentially on your way to the onto Boulder City or the Hoover Dam. But really that part of Henderson is where you get a lot more established older homes, a lot of people that are in retirement age. You'll find a lot of that in the Green Valley Ranch area, a lot of older houses, a lot smaller houses as well. Just because that area is really known to have a lot of retirees. A couple golf courses as well. One of the things that we're also known for is a lot of our golf courses, which we have a lot of. But Green Valley Ranch is where you're going to find a lot of the, again, more established homes, but you do get a mix of sort of new apartment developments. But a lot more history in that area in terms of sort of like modern Vegas. A lot of people moved there like in the 90s, even the 80s. Sort of that space. A lot of people call Henderson Hendertucky just because you also get the big open spaces. Like where I live, there are actually a lot of open lots that are really big houses with lots and lots of land. Like you get like almost 5 or 10 acre houses that have a house and then also have like a ranch area, or just have a lot of space. So you find a lot of those really older established homes in the area that I'm kind of in, which is sort of like, I would say West Henderson, really south Las Vegas. But I enjoy living in my area. I live very close to the Henderson Airport, called the Executive Airport, which essentially is all the small airplanes that fly in and out of Las Vegas. But the good thing about living on this side of town is that you do get a lot of golf courses, and it's also really cool because the area that I'm living in actually is developing quite rapidly, where you also have the street that we're on if you go sort of north, you get a lot more apartments, a lot more mixture of new apartments, houses, really great neighborhoods. So the neighborhoods themselves, I would say I would consider quite safe. A lot of them are gated. Some of them are not. So you just have to go with that same sort of mentality of like gated or not gated. But if you keep going south, you get into Seven Hills, which Seven Hills is actually like up a mountain and like inside of a canyon. Is where you get a lot of the multi-million-dollar homes. It's where Rio Seco Golf Club is, as well as Anthem Country Club and the Revere Golf Course. So that's actually 3 golf courses all in that same area. Only one of them is private. The other 2 you can pay to go on. But around the Rio Seco area is where you get all of these beautiful homes. It's actually one of the best golf courses to play. One, because it's a great golf course, but also just because of all the awesome homes that sit on that golf course. On like the second hole, there's this beautiful house that overlooks the strip. So really great views from the south. For some reason, once you get like close to that area, like the Seven Hills area, you are close to a mountain. So you're actually going up a hill sort of gradually. And there are many great views from that area. There's also, if you keep going south, even further south of Seven Hills, a little bit past the airport, you start getting a lot of new builds, a lot of townhouses, townhomes, and really people always want to know what the price is for a lot of these homes now. Many homes, like you can get I would say a 3-bedroom townhouse in this particular area for really close, much closer to about $400,000, depending on if you're doing finishes, depending if it's a new build, what you're getting. But I would say the average price for a home of that, a new build, probably about 380 to 400,000 for like a 3-bedroom house, or a 3-bedroom townhouse. So it's astronomical. You get a lot of $1 million homes in this area as well. It's very easy to like this particular spot see stuff in the $450,000 to $500,000 range. It's absolutely wild, especially figuring out how expensive it's gotten in the past 10 years is really crazy. So that's sort of like this area is the south. I would say it's actually quite safe here. Again, it just depends on sort of if you're living in an apartment complex or not. But in general, I think like the shopping centers are quite nice. I wouldn't say it's quite like Summerlin level. I would say that's like, pretty safe. I would say almost super safe. But you do get a lot more established areas down here. But I would say in this area next to Seven Hills, it is quite safe, like to walk around and that kind of thing, because you are kind of disconnected from like the low level streets, which is where you'd get a little bit more crime and all that kind of stuff. But once you get like into Henderson, you start getting a lot more of the like older neighborhoods, which it goes the same thing with the shopping malls and shopping centers. So kind of is what it is. So that's sort of the south area. The south area also has a couple casinos. The really cool thing about Las Vegas is that we have the Strip, we have Fremont Street. Everyone says everyone goes to Fremont Street, all the locals go there. Like, not really. They go to their local casino. So this area has things like the South Point. They also have places like Green Valley Ranch, Sunset Station. And the thing about our local casinos, they really are like our local community centers. So like you may have like a mall that you go to where you're from, and that has all the things you need. They have a bowling alley, they have a movie theater, they have the mall itself, they have restaurants. We don't really have a lot of those here. We don't have a lot of like standalone movie theaters. A lot of our movie theaters, essentially they're structured to be inside of local casinos. Every one of those casinos that I mentioned, the Sunset Station, the Green Valley Ranch, and South Point, all have movie theaters inside of them. And they're relatively close, like in terms of, where they are. Like Green Valley Ranch and Sunset Station are quite close. There's the M Resort, which is a local place that does not have a movie theater, but that is because it is in such close proximity to South Point, and South Point was first, so that's usually, they're like, we don't need one. And they want to be more of a luxury property as well, sort of off the Strip. It's sort of a Strip-style property off the Strip. But everyone likes to go to their local casinos. The cool thing about our local casinos, for the most part, will be lower limits. You definitely get that at South Point. You can sometimes get that at places like Green Valley Ranch, which for the most part was the jewel of the Station Casino chain until they opened up Durango as well as the Red Rock Casino. But yeah, these areas are where you get lots of these like really nice restaurants that tend to be a little bit cheaper than on the Strip. Doesn't really go for their steakhouses. Steakhouses are kind of across the board more expensive anywhere you go in town. But this area, that's where you get, I think we're really spoiled with Green Valley Ranch, South Point, and the M in the south part of town. So really, really nice. So let's go ahead and move. Let's move over to the east part of town. So east is really going to be anything, obviously we're using the Strip as sort of like the central point of Las Vegas. So if you go east, it really is a mixed bag. I honestly, so I've driven around that area. You have to be really careful in that space. You get a lot of more, a lot older. No, it's not. Sometimes you get older families that have been living there for a very long time in this particular space. I would say this is like a totally different world. I would never want to live in the east side of Las Vegas just because, one, I'm not, accustomed to it. But it really feels like once you get like east of Boulder Highway, like it honestly feels like you are in a concrete city. It feels like, yeah, it feels like the not nice parts of LA where it's just a concrete jungle of just concrete, and nothing. It always feels super hot over there. Like there's nothing blocking the sun. It's just super hot all the time. So this is where you find a lot of maybe new builds or a lot of houses that are, more established, but you'll find a lower price in houses in this part of town. You'll find a lot of stuff like in the $300,000 range for like a 2 or 3 bedroom house. So yeah, it's cool, but really anytime you get further away from the Strip and sort of like the intermediate areas, it gets more expensive. And of course the spaces as well. There's a really good example of a part of town that is sort of very far away, which is where it gets cheaper, but doesn't necessarily mean you want to live there. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of like location, just like anything else. The further away you get from the city center, it's tough. Another sort of unique thing about Las Vegas's sort of topography and the way that it's all built is that the airport itself is in the center part of town. So it's actually either really easy or really hard to get there, depending on your proximity to the airport. But that's kind of like part of it. But anyway, so like if you're right near the airport, so we'll make our way back towards the Strip. Anywhere near the airport, you get, again, a lot of those like older homes that have been here since like the 70s that you sometimes get like a nice traditional style yard, sort of like an old school California house where it sort of has that big yard and very conventional. Something like you would see something like in places like Phoenix or, that kind of style. It's very rare now that you get a large yard in Las Vegas. I know you can go to places, where you're from maybe, and you get very large yards. It's part of the property. But in Las Vegas, many of our new builds are very close to other houses. They don't really typically have very large yards. So if you want like a bigger yard, you're really looking to get into a much older established house or neighborhood. So you just have to be on the lookout for it. I did actually look at some houses that were going to be built in this part of town, and like once you walk in, it's like $500,000-$600,000 homes, which that's when you get those big yards. So it's absolutely astronomical what you're paying for to have a yard in Las Vegas. But center part of town, which you're looking just sort of east of the Las Vegas Strip, sort of like near the airport, maybe sort of the in between Las Vegas Strip and the 515, which is the other freeway that runs on the east side. That area, again, older. I don't think I'd like to live there because, again, still feels like kind of a concrete jungle, very small. Lot of streetlights. It's absolutely nuts. It's probably one of the hardest places to get access to any of the freeways. So just travel-wise, for me, that would be a really tough place to live if you're trying to get, north and south or east or west. The funny thing is that the further away you get from the Strip, the easier it is to actually navigate the city of Las Vegas. Because when you're in the center part of paradise, which is essentially outside of the city limits, which that's anywhere in between like Las Vegas Boulevard and the 515 or Las Vegas Boulevard and Summerlin. That's all like old streets. Those are all very flat, very much like Los Angeles, sort of without freeways. And if you're trying to get anywhere quickly, they can sometimes be really good avenues and sometimes be very, very packed city streets essentially. So the further away you get from the strip, it actually gets much easier to actually access freeways and get around, which is obviously much easier. A really important thing to know about the city of Las Vegas and its like sort of traffic is that the freeway system is essentially just a giant circle. It's a giant circle going from the 515, which goes north and south on the east side of town, so not near the strip, and then they all connect. So then you would go to the 215, which the 215 goes east and west on the south part of town, and which is sort of like my area. And from there, you can actually go all the way around to Summerlin, which is the very west, then make a big giant circle on the Summerlin Parkway, which then goes, east and west again. And then you can get back to the 515 or the 15, which the I-15 is the one that goes all the way to Los Angeles. It's also the one that goes right down, straight up and down Las Vegas. And that's where you go north and south to, Fremont Street, Las Vegas Boulevard. And of course, you can go all the way to California if you jump on it, or Utah. So honestly, a lot of like locals will trash the 15, the I-15. Say, we never ride the I-15. The thing is, guys, is that it is really the most direct way to get north and south on the strip in the most efficient way possible. Yes, we had a lot of traffic this last year because we had construction. So obviously you had to be a little bit more creative. But now that much of that construction is done, where they have to widen bridges and also the freeway itself, it's really become a very dependable place to go, north and south on the strip. Then you get the Spaghetti Bowl, which is near Northtown, and we can get to that later. But we've done east, we've done south. South, I would say, nice place to live. East, not so much, not my vibe, especially if you're a younger person or, I would say mid-aged person wanting to move to Las Vegas. I don't think you want to start your new life on the east side of town. And also very sporadic in terms of their casinos. They have Boulder Station, which is not really that nice of a casino. And of course they have Sunset Station, which is the south part of Henderson, Deep Henderson, as we call it. So as we move to the west, let's see, do we want to save the best for last, or do we want to go to the north? Let's actually go north. So it's much more fun to talk about the north part of town because I don't go there very often. I think you're very much secluded to the areas that you live in, and then obviously Fremont Street and Las Vegas Boulevard. But the thing is, I'm a very unique person I'm a unique local that actually likes to go to Las Vegas Boulevard. A lot of locals do not like to go towards the strip. Don't think about, hey, what's the traffic situation when I go there all the time. It's really a one-time deal, whether they're going to Las Vegas Boulevard or not. So it's once they have to deal with it. So like me, somebody who goes a lot to the strip, it's actually much easier for me to navigate Las Vegas Boulevard than it is the local parts of town. And I've actually lived here for quite a long time, and I've gotten pretty good at the streets, just like anybody else would if they lived in a city for a long time. But really on the strip, you have to know like sort of what are the busy periods, where are the places that you have to sort of cheat and get over, and all those other good things. So let's go to the north because I don't go there very often. The north part of town is very much the more affordable part of town, just because you do get a lot. You do get like these, well, actually, North Las Vegas is like its own place, but you do get a lot of these like housing, like these developments where you have all these like neighborhoods. But for some reason, that part of town just always seems to be a little bit rough to live in. It's also very sprawling. You do get a lot more like that grid style neighborhoods, but I don't spend a lot of time in the north part of town just because I don't live over there. And also like, I don't think this is all relative to where you're from, but I don't feel like super safe, like in the north part of town. Cause again, I don't live there, but just not understanding sort of like that's part of town is not my biggest thing. So, the north part of town is also where you get like the Canary Casino. It's also where you get a couple different other things like that. Santa Fe Station. I've been to Santa Fe Station like twice in my entire life. I think maybe three times total. I think I went to the movies there like once, and at least twice I've gone to Santa Fe for movies. But Overall, don't hang out in the north part of town. But the thing is, it's kind of funny because it's sort of like this buffer area because you go from, let's just use Fremont Street as the example. So Fremont Street is sort of like the center of Las Vegas because that's where the city hall is. But then you go north, and then that's where it gets a little bit rough. And then as you keep going north, you hit sort of like this area, sort of like we're on the canyons on your way to, Salt Lake or on your way to the mountains, Lee Canyon. And then it gets like super like open, and you get a lot of these new housing developments, which these are actually more affordable. So like the area that I'm in, it's like maybe $400,000 for a house. When you get up to that north part of town, you could probably get a house for like maybe $350,000, the exact same house, just because that part of town is much less populated. To me, it's much harder to sort of get back to civilization when you get too far up there, like Kyle Canyon and all those other places. So to me, that's the only time anybody really goes up there is if they're going to golf at the Paiute Golf Course, which is a great golf course, by the way, or if they're going over to like EDC, which is in the north part of town as well. So I don't know. It's really up to you, but north part of town is not my vibe. It's where, again, you get a lot newer developments, a lot more house for what you're paying. But there's really an in-between area, which is sort of like the buffer zone, which I don't think is a great place to settle up because it's far away from the things that I want to see. So let's move to Summerlin. So we saved the best for last. And actually, there's kind of like these two other spaces. But Summerlin itself is probably the most well-known part of town that is sort of like the Scottsdale of Las Vegas. Like, if Las Vegas Boulevard, let's actually use a different analogy. I would say that if Las Vegas was Los Angeles, or let's just say Hollywood, let's use Hollywood. It's like Hollywood with all the things, all the tourists, all the things, that kind of deal. Then Summerlin is kind of like the Beverly Hills of Hollywood. It's another suburb of the city itself, and it's where a lot of the people who would work like as corporate executives or people who are CEOs of casinos, they would live in Summerlin. It's very nice streets, very walkable. The actual streets themselves are quite nice, even the shopping centers. There is sort of a buffer zone as well, like, just like the east side, where you go from the Las Vegas Strip over to Summerlin. There's sort of an in-between, which is sort of a lot of like Chinatown, and you also get a lot older houses. You get a lot of houses that are sort of like near downtown Las Vegas. When you go west on Charleston, which Charleston's a very long street, goes east and west. And that's where you get a lot of the old houses, like places where Wayne Newton didn't live there. Wayne Newton lived near the airport in a place called Casa de Shenandoah. But they do have they have like Ace Rothstein lived in Las Vegas Country Club, which is next to the the Westgate. But over on Charleston is where they had Siegfried and Roy's house, which I actually played golf at a golf course right near there, which I had no idea that it ever existed. But I played at that golf course. I have to check and see what golf course it is. The Las Vegas Golf Club. And right next to Las Vegas Golf Club, it's funny, it's actually marked on here, is called the Jungle Palace. And the Jungle Palace is Siegfried and Roy's house. Which it's really cool. Like once you actually like are standing by it, because you can see the really big backyard that they had, and they have like the nets and stuff where they used to have the lions and tigers, which would live at the Jungle Palace. Which, fun fact, Las Vegas, it's probably, I think, one of the places that you can actually own a tiger and a lion, like exotic animals. I think they're changing it, but it is called the Jungle Palace, which it's just funny because I was looking at the golf course and I was like, yep, it's on that road where if you just look just close enough, you can see that gigantic house. It's really like a compound that also like has a place for your lions. So just it's so funny just looking at it from above that it's such a large space. So very interesting. It's really cool. Anyways, so that is the Jungle Palace in that part of town. But again, you find a lot of those like older homes. They even use some of those houses for things like in the movie Casino. So really, really interesting, that part of town. But As I get you to Summerlin, Summerlin is also where you're going to find a lot of the nicer casinos. So Summerlin's where you're going to find Red Rock Casino, which also has an IMAX theater in it. Good for you. But they also have really, really nice apartments, especially on your way to Red Rock Canyon. They have a lot of apartments that were being built up there. They also have a lot of houses. Most of the houses here are going to be, in the $600,000 or $700,000 price range. And of course, you have all the mansions that are going to be millions of dollars, especially if it's on a golf course where they have Bears Best golf course, the Arroyo Golf Club, Sienna Golf Club, the Summit, many, many places located in that part of town. So really, really nice. Also, Spanish Trails is really nice, that area too. That's where Floyd Mayweather lives. But again, that area is really nice. I've traveled a lot on that side of town just because they have downtown Summerlin, which is a really, really nice outdoor mall. It's really great if you're bringing people to Las Vegas and you will have they have kids. That's a really good place to go, is downtown Summerlin, because it's also essentially connected to Red Rock. So if you want to go to a casino, you can go there. If you want to take your kids someplace, you can also go to downtown Summerlin. They also have the Las Vegas Ballpark out there. So this is really like a great space for children. I would say this is a really good place to go, especially if you are bringing like a family to Las Vegas. This is like the first place you'd look, because it has pretty low crime rate, really, really walkable, like at nighttime. But again, it's a large space, just like anything in Las Vegas. It's a very large sort of chunk. But this is where you find a lot of the golf courses, really good, good schools, good neighborhoods. This is the area that you're kind of looking at. Also kind of like on the periphery, we have sort of the Southwest, and the Southwest is really growing. And I would say if you're somebody who doesn't have the money to go to Summerlin or come move to Summerlin right away, that the Southwest is actually one of the nicer areas, just because it's very quiet. It's actually like a sprawling space, and you are really close to the 215, which is really essential, is being kind of close to a freeway to be able to get anywhere around Las Vegas, whether you're going to the office, whether you're going to the Strip. Being close to a freeway is really like a plus, in my opinion. But I know a lot of people that live on a street called Blue Diamond. So Blue Diamond is a main drive, which essentially is not a freeway, but it's like a very, very fast parkway where you're able to, go up and down kind of like it's a freeway, but they have many, many businesses up there, which is actually quite nice, especially if you're moving to that part of town, because it doesn't feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, which is really quite nice. They do have a brand new casino called the Durango, which Durango itself, what's this place? Angie's Lobster and Angie's Prime Rib Grill. Interesting. Anyways, so as you go on down Blue Diamond or go down the 215, that is actually when you go to, again, Durango. And Durango itself is actually quite nice on the inside. Very light, very bright. It is very much for adults, not very much for children. So if I had to say like which casino you would go to if you had kids, you'd probably end up going to the Red Rock Canyon, or I keep saying that, Red Rock Resort, or South Point. But Durango itself, quite nice for adults, really good time to like sort of get away, which is cool. But again, that area really developing, really good place to find houses that are in like, again, the 380 to 420 range. If you're trying to get like that 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house, or townhouse, I should say, not a giant house, probably be able to find one there. So to answer Rick's question, because this is sort of like a long way of getting to his actual question, which was, are there safe places to live around the Strip? So let's get to the Strip. Number one, nobody lives, for the most part, on Las Vegas Boulevard, but there are places to actually buy apartments on Las Vegas Boulevard. So number one, and probably one of the only residential buildings, is the Veer Towers. So the Veer Towers, which is center strip in front of the Aria Hotel. I actually do know somebody who does live in the Veer Towers. The Veer Towers are very much going to be like your downtown LA or like New York style high rise, where you do get like the pool is actually on the top of the hotel, or top of the condominium complex. And it's also going to be where you have direct access to like valet. The only problem is that any like actual household needs that you like need. So for example, groceries, if you just want to, a convenience store, it's great because the convenience stores are inside the casinos. But if you really want like a convenience, like a oh my goodness, like a mom and pop restaurant or something of that nature, you are not staying at the Veer Towers. And it's funny because the person I do know that lives at the Veer Towers, I'm assuming doesn't cook very much or they cook a lot. It's like one or the other because it's very hard to get anywhere from there. It's actually really hard to access getting in and out of the Veer Towers, especially if you're trying to, just get something really quickly. You can walk to things, like you can walk to Planet Hollywood. They have, Taco Bell. But the Veer Towers themselves, I think you can probably get a 2-bedroom apartment like a 2-bedroom condominium, probably somewhere in the like $700,000 or $800,000 range. Obviously depending on the view, of course, and the floor number. But it is possible that you'll find places that are in like the $1.2 to $1.5 million range for that room or for that building. Because it all depends on the view, all depends on the floor, all that, the size, square footage, all that stuff. But I would say definitely looking at that price range. I would actually not recommend staying at, living in the Veer Towers, just because, again, the actual like logistics of staying there would be a little tough. But there are actually places right behind it, right on the freeway, right on the I-15, which there is a bridge that connects you from your side of the freeway to the Strip. There are places called the Martin and the Panorama Towers. So the Martin and the Panorama Towers, which I actually knew I knew a girl who lived in the Panorama Towers. And it was really funny. If you want to know like what kind of person will stay at the Panorama Towers or live in the Panorama Towers, she was the daughter of a Chinese millionaire, like multimillionaire, who went to school at UNLV, worked as a concierge, because what else is she going to do? And she lived there. And the funny story is that they came to actually look at the apartment itself. And they said nothing too expensive, something, doable. So they were on like let's just say the 15th floor. And then they looked at it and there's like a balcony and they said, oh, this balcony is like too close to the parking garage. It's what if somebody climbs up and goes into your house? So let's go higher. So then they ended up getting up to like the 25th floor of this particular tower, and that's where they lived, or that's where she lived. So the Panorama Towers are actually quite nice. I would say that Panorama Towers are probably more expensive to stay in than the Veer Towers. Same thing with the Martin, which is sort of like next door. And I don't know, it has great views. Like if you're able to have a view of the Strip, easily your price for your apartment's going to be in like the $1.8 to $3 million range. And I could be lowballing. I can see this being like almost a $5 million apartment. But they don't get that high though. I would definitely say like at least 1.5, 3 million, for something like the Panorama Towers, because it is, luxury. They do have valet service, and you're able to access the freeway pretty easily. They even built like an on-ramp from there, which is absolutely awesome. I love it, but you are able to get to sort of those areas. And if you're trying to get to like those spaces, that's another sort of like kind of shitty part about living near the Strip, is that, because the thing is, I have some sort of experience living near Las Vegas Boulevard, because I did stay in the dorms at UNLV, which is, about 1.5 miles from Las Vegas Boulevard. So you go to a lot of the same places that you would go if you lived on the Strip. What's what I'm looking for? The grocery stores are not like super nice in that part of town. Like you have like Target, which the Target we would go to next to UNLV was like, little like ghetto. Just because, again, it's in that part of town. So like I wasn't like a huge fan of it. And also like living in that area, it's hit or miss. Like you got a lot of things that you can go to. They put a Popeyes in, and I thought that was the most awesome thing ever invented. But again, like I don't know that area of town now. They also had a Wingstop when they built, like it was like a Wingstop like restaurant, not just like a regular store, and it was so good. But again, really hard to find groceries. They had an Albertsons that was like falling apart, so it was tough. Like if you wanted to live there now, like the best place to actually get groceries, like in that part of like UNLV, would be near the airport. There is a Walmart Supercenter, which has like a grocery store in it, and it's really it. Or you have to go on Las Vegas Boulevard South and find like a Whole Foods. But I would say like actually the convenience of trying to do like normal everyday stuff is actually quite hard if you're going to be living next to Las Vegas Boulevard. You don't find a lot of families living there. You obviously get a lot of bachelors, bachelorettes. I know another woman who actually is a performer on the Strip, who is single. Well, she's not married. She's dating somebody. But she actually lives in the Veer Towers, which is quite convenient for them. And she's quite young as well, which I think that's, helpful. Just because if you want to be out and about and doing things, it's very, very easy. You go downstairs, boom, you're in the hustle and bustle, which is quite nice. Again, it's a touristy area. It's sort of like renting an apartment in Times Square. Like, what you're getting into if you have an apartment in town, in Times Square. So you don't really find a lot of people that I know will live in those areas, but people do. It is a thing. So there's another building which he brought up, which is pretty nice. I've actually walked through it. I did tours of it actually, were the Signature Suites, or the MGM Signature, which those are the 3 gold towers right next to Topgolf, sort of behind Planet Hollywood. Not like super, it's sort of adjacent, but sort of behind there. And they have their own private entrance. They have their own valet, which the valet guys are very much like resident dependent. You do get a mix of people who live at the Signature and also are residents. Some people also have this thing where they can like rent out their apartment, sort of like its own B&B for that property, which it gets very complicated at that point. But you used to have concierge service, which that was awesome, but not anymore since they closed the concierge desk. I had to cover over there like twice, and I hated it just because you do get people there that they essentially are expecting it to be sort of like a Manhattan style building where you have concierge service. You also have like the people that you've seen there for years. And it's a lot of stuff that I wasn't ready for. Just because when you are like a concierge in a high volume place like MGM Grand, you're dealing with transient guests, people who come in and out, people who are there for a couple of days, people who know that like you're not supposed to know who they are. But when you go over the Signature, you are expected to know exactly who everybody is if they are a sort of like having a doorman essentially in Manhattan. But the rooms themselves can be quite generic, especially if you are someone who wants them like sometimes they come, I think, fully furnished. But again, they come with like a little kitchenette. They're very, very small, the kitchens, but pretty spacious if you're looking for like a hotel room. But I would say it's not terrible staying at the Signature just because you do have. It's a pretty long walk to go from the Signature to MGM Grand. And it's also a little bit of a walk if you're going from Signature to Las Vegas Boulevard, because that street itself looks short, like when you're looking at it from above, like I'm looking at it right now. But being on there, it's a much longer walk than you think. But again, I could be lazy. But yeah, that's a Signature. But again, the Signature, it's a little bit more accessible to other parts of town because you're not right on Las Vegas Boulevard. You find a lot of these places that are just off the Strip can be quite nice. You also do find a lot of condominiums on the north side of Las Vegas Boulevard, because I essentially just read off all the ones in the center. But a really, really popular place that people live is the oh my goodness, forgot the name of it. Sorry, guys, give me a second here. Is the Sky Tower Las Vegas, which is right across the street from the Fontainebleau. You get a lot of people that have lived there for a very long time. I can only imagine living there and then knowing that Fontainebleau was just sitting there for so many years. It's so crazy. But met a bunch of people there. It's kind of funny. Again, this is a Uber story, so take it as you will. I had an Uber driver who said, yeah, I actually live in the Sky Tower, Las Vegas, right across from the Fontainebleau, but I just drive Uber just, cause. I was like, okay, sure, do your thing, man. But again, those condominiums tend to be a little bit more affordable because they're not as high rise as they will. But yeah, there's another place. Oh my goodness, I forgot the name of it. Is it called North Star? Nope, that's just something else. But there is a place on the north end of the Strip, right across from the Sahara. I can't remember the name of it, which I feel so terrible not being able to know the name of this place for you guys. But that is an apartment complex where it has condos, which is a high-rise. I just can't remember the name of it right now. Sorry about that, guys. But it's there. That's on the north side of street. And of course you have the Beverly Hills. You have the Las Vegas Country Club, which is where they famously landed a plane from the movie Casino there. Actually, not movie, but actually in real life. But that place, lots of old people in a very old part of town. When you drive right next to it, you're like, yeah, this is old people city, to be honest. So again, that's the city of Las Vegas. I know that it was sort of comprehensive. I didn't know it was going to take, that long to go through the entire city. But I do have to say that if you are somebody who does like to gamble, hopefully you have a lot of money to do it, but you do learn to be a little bit more cognizant of how much you spend while you're in city. And also, if you like women, this is definitely a place that you will find a lot of them, but they are not free because that's the way that this city works. So just keep that in mind. And of course, drinking, we are 24 hours wherever you go. You will probably find a bar that is open that you can have a drink at. Lots of local bars in these areas. So like next to my apartment complex, so you can get to like 3 or 4 different bars walking, which is, dangerous for some. So that was my comprehensive list. Hopefully I answered Rick's question. Thank you so much for asking. But if you have any more, I'll follow up on the gram with you if you'd like. Make sure to follow us on all of our Instagram, our Instagram page, ConsciousConfidential_LV, or you can follow me, Brian Ortega _26, for, all the stuff that I've been doing lately. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. Hopefully you guys have a great week. Really appreciate it. If you see me out in town, which I'll probably be out in town this week, come up, say hello, but remember, keep it confidential.